Hey, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I am here with my partner in crime and sister, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. It's Halloween week. Woohoo!
Yes, it is. And we have big doings.
We do.
We do. I mean, today, of course, because this is a Patreon special that we're putting out today. So we're very excited to share it with all of our patrons that we love and adore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know we've said it before, but I'm going to say it again to make sure that you patrons have heard this. The cemetery tour we took, you guys paid for part of it.
You did.
You did. We were able to take what we're getting from Patreon to put towards that trip, and you guys helped fund that trip. So I hope you know how much we appreciate your contributions, how much they're helping us to be able to do cool stuff, and
Absolutely.
more cool stuff coming in the spring. And you know, it's just, we appreciate it so much, but we want you to know it's going to some pretty awesome places.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely. Yeah. Much appreciated.
But also, so that's the one thing I want to make sure we said. But yes, it's a great Halloween week. We have this Halloween special, but then on Saturday is Halloween, and we are watching Witches.
Yes, the new one.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm excited. It's going to be fun. I'm curious to see how they handle it, because when I watched it, I was like, oh, wow, the special effects are so bad in this original show, you know? And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be so much better in the new one. Can't wait.
I know. I've heard from some of my clients have seen it already and said that it's awesome. So
good. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's very good. But before we get going on this special, how are you? I know you've had quite the week.
You know, I'm okay, but I would really like it if things would stop breaking at my house. That'd be really cool. I had a sewer backup in our basement yesterday. Ooh, isn't that fun?
That's a crappy situation.
It was a very crappy situation. Fortunately, we live in an old house that has concrete floors in the basement, like in our laundry room and our furnace room, and they have drains. We have drains in the floor. So the backup was on concrete floors. So not nearly as horrible as it could have been, which was good. But just as we were calling the plumber to get that fixed, our little dog went outside, came back in, and her leg just puffed up like she'd broken it or gotten stung by something. And she couldn't put any weight on it. It was awful. So then we had to go to the vet. And it is a sting of some sort. We actually found the spot where she was stung. I think we got the stinger out. We're working on it today. And she's on some medicines from the vet. Poor girl. She's been through it.
Oh, yeah.
And then today, our dryer quit. So, like, hey, that's it. Okay. 3, you know, it comes in 3s. We've had 3. That's enough. No more of this shit.
That'll be that.
Yes.
Well, damn. Well, here's hoping that is the end of it for sure. And that the dryer is an easy fix as well.
I hope so. It's been making a weird sound for a while, so it's pretty much our own fault. But I think it's a belt. It just won't turn now. And you're like, it's probably just a belt. So
probably. Well, damn. Well, I hope Zeke get feeling better. That just sucks.
Well, it's still pretty sore and swollen. She doesn't really want to walk on it very much. The vet told me to massage it and try to move some of the edema out. So I've been doing that. And she looks at me kind of like, thank you. You know, like, I can only get like 30 seconds in. And then she's like, got her mouth on my hand. Like, I'm not going to bite you, but I could.
But this is my warning shot.
Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, I got it. I won't do it again.
Well, Mercury is retrograde. And so that's prime time for stuff to break down. But good news, it goes direct in a week. So it actually goes direct on election day. Very strange. Very strange.
What that means, I do not know.
I mean, I'm not going to say what I think it means. I don't know what it means. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not speculating on the election because I'm just not. I can't do that to myself. Well, things are interesting here because one of our pigs is blowing her coat. So every year, pigs lose all their hair once a year and start over. And when they lose their hair, that's called blowing their coat. Most pigs that are reasonable build up a coat all winter long and they blow it in the spring.
Yeah.
But our little sow is not reasonable. And she does it backwards. So I've been noticing a few little black hairs on the floor. Normally, pigs are super clean, hypoallergenic. They don't stink. They don't shed. Nothing.
Yeah.
But except for when they blow their coats, and then it sucks for like a week. It's just like an avalanche of pig hair.
Mhm.
And Scott, my husband, was petting her, kind of tugging on her mohawk today, like he normally does, and came away with a horrible handful of hair. It was So anyway, I'm sharing a picture so that you guys can see just what poor Fiona looks like right now. But
Aw.
anyway, so I've got a week of piggy shedding that's really isn't fun. But then she'll be naked for the winter. So I wish I could convince her. I wish I could convince her to quit doing it this way. But she
Yeah.
does what she wants. I don't know why she does this. Her brother blows his coat in the spring, like a reasonable pig would.
Right.
But
yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah. It is, but she's always been like this. So anyway, so that's the big chaos at my house. So clearly things are fine.
Well, I was going to say, I would take that over mine any day.
Right? I feel like things are better. You may notice that I'm wearing one of our true crime paranormal t-shirts.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're finally live. You guys can find them if you want one over on Etsy. They're in our store, and our Etsy store is Joyful Goddess Designs on Etsy. So you just search for it. We'll put it in the description too of this video, but you can find them there too. So yeah, get yourself a true crime paranormal or put it on your wish list anyway. Christmas is coming.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, today we are doing a Halloween special. So we are actually doing true crime Halloween style.
Yes.
So we're going to share with you 10 crimes that happened on Halloween. Some of them are solved, so we're just basically going to share it and talk a little about it. Some of them are unsolved. And on the unsolved ones, we'll go ahead and throw a cold read out there. So that's how we're going to go about this. It's so hold on to your pumpkins. It's going to be a wild ride.
Hold on to your pumpkins. It is. Because this first guy has screwed up Halloween for all of us, and now I know why.
Right? Yes, I know which story you're talking about, and holy, take it away. Let's go.
Okay, so let's talk about Ronald O'Brien, or as he's been known, the man who killed Halloween, or the Candyman, although I think the man who killed Halloween is a whole lot better.
Yeah.
So on Halloween in 1974, his son, Timothy, came home from trick-or-treating thinking he was having a fabulous Halloween as usual. And his dad gave him one last piece of candy. It was a Pixie Sticks, which, if you are of my generation, hello, best candy ever. So, of course, Timothy ate it immediately because it was a Pixie Sticks and it came from his dad. And within minutes, he was throwing up and he died on the way to the hospital. So apparently his dad told a bunch of different stories and blah, 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 lied his butt off as usual, as these guys are known to do. And finally the police figured out that he was in fact responsible for his son's death because he poisoned the candy with cyanide. So you know why forever people have been afraid of kids getting poisoned candy on Halloween? It's this jackass's fault.
Who poisoned his own kid.
Who poisoned his own freaking kid. So I guess if you need to be worried, it's your own parents you need to be worried about. So Ronald O'Brien is the man who killed Halloween. What a jackass.
And his son.
Yeah. Well, it turns out he was in major debt. And so his way of solving that was he took out life insurance policies on his children. Super stand-up guy all the way around.
So I wondered, why this kid?
Why this kid?
He had more than one kid.
Yeah.
Why this one?
I think it's because it was easy. Like, it's Halloween. He's eating candy. This is going to be super easy to poison him. Then he could blame it on the Halloween that other people, or the candy other people gave him. I just feel like it was like convenience. What a jackass. He was convicted. And he was given the death penalty by lethal injection. I'm not sure if he's been
I believe he was
killed by the state. I kind of think he was. This was a really long time ago. But thanks, Ronald O'Brien, for ruining Halloween, you jackass.
Yeah. When you guys were kids, did you have to, you weren't allowed to eat any candy until either your parents inspected it, or in some communities, they take it to the police department or to the hospital to have it inspected. They don't
Yeah.
really do that anymore, I don't think. But when we were
I don't
kids, that was very much a thing.
It was, but this was in 1974. I was born in 75. So we were little kids, shortly after all this went down. I can see why now. I
Mhm.
didn't know this story until we were researching this, but now I'm like,
Me
ooh,
neither.
hate that dude. What an idiot.
Yeah.
Poor
Yeah.
kid. Jeez.
Right.
Having a
Horrifying.
good Halloween and gets poisoned by his dad. That's awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, fitting that he was, executed by lethal injection.
Right? He should have had to eat a pixie stick full of cyanide.
Full of
I
cyanide.
think
Yeah.
that would have been fair.
Mm-hmm.
And he should have
Agreed.
had to eat like 10 of them, and he didn't know which one had the cyanide in it, just to make it worse.
I like how you think. Yeah.
This dude screwed up Halloween for a lot of kids, besides murdering
Mhm.
his son. I mean, that is the most
Yeah.
important part, of course. But,
Yeah.
I think he deserved to get it a little worse.
I agree. He feckered everything up. He deserves
Definitely.
some kind of a. Yep.
Yeah, he should have. But they probably just
Or
gave him
maybe he should only
the
get candy.
injection and put him to sleep, and it didn't even hurt, unlike his poor son.
Right. I
Mm.
think cyanide laced candy corn, because first you'd have to eat candy corn, which
Ugh,
ew,
right?
and then also be poisoned by cyanide.
Okay, I got it. Yes, better, even
Yeah.
better.
Or those weird little pumpkins.
Ooh, yeah, those wax pumpkins, yucky.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I know. It's gonna. Some people are gonna like these, and they're gonna be sending us a note. It's okay if you like them. It's okay.
It is. You're
You can send
allowed.
us a note too. That's okay too.
We're just
It's
not
fine.
fans. But
Yeah.
if you like them, it's all right. You do
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So now let's talk about Leslie Mazzara and Adrian Isogna. So this was Halloween 2004, and they were at their home in Napa, California. They'd been handing out candy to trick-or-treaters, and about 11 o'clock they went to bed, kind of thinking they were done with the Halloween thing. And let's see. Sorry, I was looking at the time, but the time's not in there. At some point, another woman was in the house, and her name was Lauren Mianza. So Mianza woke up to hearing screaming coming from the upstairs bedrooms. So, being either the absolute terrible friend that she was, or really smart, she ran out of the house, jumped in her car, and drove away, leaving Mazzara and Insogna behind, and they had been stabbed to death upstairs. Maybe she knew they were goners and she just had to get out of there. I don't know. She saved herself, which I think is pretty smart. So it turns out that a man named Eric Matthew Koppel, who was a friend of one of the victims, turned himself in and confessed to the murders, but he never told anybody why he did it. And he is serving life without parole at this point. But I don't know. What do you think about Mianza, Lauren Mianza? What do you think about her just running out the door, getting in her car, and driving away?
I feel like it was. I mean, it's reported that way, but I feel like it was actually an attempt to get help.
Okay.
That she didn't just jump in her car and drive away. She jumped in her car and drove somewhere to call for help.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably the case.
Yeah, but
It comes off funny, like, oh, people are being killed. I'm out of here.
I should leave. Yeah. It's time to go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an awful.
It saved her life, and they were being stabbed to death. So probably not anything she could have done.
Well, agreed. And it feels to me like that was a crime of passion. I think there was some kind of a love situation going on there, or jilted love situation.
Yeah.
That prompted somebody to go bonkers and stab his friends. Yeah.
Yeah. I really question, though, did he know Lauren was in the house? It's interesting that they were stabbed upstairs. She's downstairs.
Yeah.
I really think he didn't know she was in the house.
I wonder if he had no idea.
Expect her to be there.
Of course, her car was there, though.
It was. That's true. I don't know.
Or if they were just those two were his mark.
Obviously, I didn't get all the details, but.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking the two that he killed were his mark. Lauren really wasn't. However, had she like run upstairs and tried to get in the middle of it, she probably would have been killed.
She would have. I mean, I think getting out and get help was definitely a very smart thing to do. It just
Mhm.
comes across as funny, like, "Oh, everyone's being murdered. I'm out of here," you know?
Mhm. It also makes you wonder, like, what has she had to live with? Has this been
I'm
hopefully it's
sure
been a thing where people assured her, "Hey, that was,
that was the
that was
right
the
thing.
smart thing to do."
It
But I'm
was.
sure there have been others that haven't,
Mhm.
this has probably created for her a lifetime of fear and guilt too. It's
Probably.
it's a crazy
And of
place.
course, it was the right thing to do. I mean, she was gonna be
Yeah.
killed too.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing she could have done, and the opportunity to get away it's definitely the smartest thing to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about another one here? So, Shirley Ledford was hitchhiking home from a Halloween party. This is a clue.
Oh,
Do not hitchhike home from any Halloween parties. This was in 1979. She didn't know it, but she was picked up by two men who were later identified as the Toolbox Killers,
yes.
Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris. So they eventually were famous for picking up female hitchhikers and then torturing them with tools typically found in a toolbox. Super
Jesus.
gross and awful. Apparently, they took pictures of their victims during the torture and murders. And this was their last murder. So they did torture and kill Shirley Ledford. And then they just sort of left her body on somebody's lawn. That's a way to
Oh,
wake up in the morning and look out the window, right?
yeah.
So she was their fifth victim. And after they killed her, a friend of theirs turned them in,
Wow.
figured out that they were the toolbox killers and turned them in. Bittaker was sentenced to death, but he actually died in 2019 of natural causes. Now, he was in prison a long friggin' time because this was in 1979 and he still had not been, uh, you know, put
Executed.
to
Yeah.
death. Yeah. Norris cooperated in the investigation. It sounds like he flipped on Bittaker and he was given 45 years to life.
Wow.
I believe he's still serving. So, horrible story. And
But 45 years to life for murdering 5 people?
right, I guess because they got Bittaker that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I guess at least in this way they put them both away really for good. I mean,
Mm,
they weren't either of them gonna get out at any time that was, that they were gonna be able to do anything else again.
yeah.
But how horrible.
It seems like anytime a story starts with, "There was a young woman that was hitchhiking," you
This
can
does
pretty
not
much
end well.
intuit the ending. Yeah, it's not a good
So,
ending.
let's learn from this, friends, as it's
Yeah.
almost Halloween. Please do not hitchhike home from a party.
Yeah. That that was a thing of the past, I think, for the most part,
I
it doesn't seem like people
I mean,
really
I see hitchhikers occasionally,
once in a rare while, yeah.
but no, I don't pick them up, I'll just say, 'cause,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
you can also flip the coin and say, "Well, she picked him up because he looked cold," and yeah, that never ends well either.
No, no, no. Not that all hitchhikers are murderers, no one's saying
No,
that,
no, no,
but,
not at all.
just
But it can
is
go either
it's not a
way,
safe
murder,
situation.
murderer, murderee,
Yeah.
or none of the above, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about Martha Moxley. Now, this is interesting because this murder is actually unsolved. It was solved for a while, and now it's not. So, the night before Halloween in 1975, Martha Moxley, who was 15, she lived in Connecticut, and she went to a costume party. And on the morning of Halloween, she was found dead in the backyard, beaten to death by a golf club.
Oh.
Yeah. So 25 years later, so not very long ago,
Mhm.
Michael Skakel, who was 15 at the time that she was killed, was convicted of the murder and sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. He always maintained his innocence, and on May
Mhm.
4th of 2018, the Connecticut Supreme Court vacated his conviction. And in
Wow.
2020, the case was reopened to the public. So her case is actually open. So, Katie,
Wow.
what do you think about Martha Moxley? Do you think it was him? Do you think it was Michael Skakel? Or do you
No,
think it was someone else?
No, I don't think it was him. And I also don't think that he knows who it was.
Okay.
I do feel like he was associated to this person and to the other people and that might have been suspects, but I don't think that he did it, nor do I think that he knows who did it. I do, however, feel like it was a teenager. I
Mhm.
think it was two boys. Two boys. This feels to me almost like an initiation thing,
Ooh.
you know, like they had to kill somebody, you know, and that's where it's at for me, but it wasn't him. But yeah, I think that it was at least not classmates per se, but at least kids that lived in the area, and that it was teenagers, and that was their goal, was to kill somebody.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oof, that's awful. Do you
really
think they'll
awful.
ever pay for their crime?
Nah, I doubt it. No, I don't think so. I suspect that these were kids that were trying to join a gang or a something, and
Hmm.
they were the initiation was that they had to kill someone. I think they did it. And then I feel like a few years later they got their heads on straight and actually moved on to just have pretty normal lives. They both know, you know, they
Hmm.
both know. But neither one of them is going to say anything because I feel like they both moved on to have families, careers, regular lives that they sure wouldn't want to upset by admitting that they killed somebody, you
Right.
know?
Wow. Can you
Yeah.
imagine living with something like that for that long?
Can you imagine killing someone with a golf club?
No. Ooh,
I
it's horrible.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, just the thought of all of it, the violence of that and yeah, all of it.
And
Yeah.
then living with that, being a teenager and then becoming an adult and having children and,
Mhm.
realizing that you took somebody else's child away at 15. Oh,
Yeah. Well, and then 25 years down the road, hearing that another person was charged and convicted for it,
yeah.
and you still are so selfish
And you still sit
that
back and say nothing.
yep.
Yikes.
And then can you imagine their relief when he was actually acquitted, and then they didn't have to worry about it anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Hate
does not
this
make
one
for
a
a
lot.
good life.
No. No.
Yikes. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Last on
anytime.
what?
I said anytime.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, last on my list. So this was in 1992. Yoshihiro Hattori, sorry, he was a Japanese exchange student and he was in New Orleans. So he was trying to get to a party, but he wasn't familiar with the neighborhood. He wasn't from there, and so he was having a hard time finding the house where the party was supposed to be. So he finally gets to this house that he thinks is the house of the party, and he knocks on the door. Nobody answers. So he's heading back toward his car, thinking he's got the wrong place. The door of the house opens, and Hattori says to the person who opened the door, "We are here for the party." But the man in the doorway just shoots him with a revolver and kills him right there. He was definitely at the wrong address. The homeowner was Rodney Pierce. He said he was scared and he thought that Hattori was trespassing on his property with criminal intent. Which I don't know how just knocking on somebody's door is trespassing with criminal intent. Pierce was charged with manslaughter, but he invoked what is called the Castle Doctrine. This must be
Mhm.
a thing in which Americans claim they have the right to apply lethal means to protect their homes and was found not guilty by a jury.
Yeah.
How the hell is knocking on the door criminal intent and trespass?
Right. Such bullshit.
It's
Well, that
horrible.
law depends on state to state. I mean, most states, that law only applies if the person that is, on your property actually has the means and is actually trying to do harm
Right.
versus someone who just knocks on your door so you blow them away. I mean, it's just so
Right.
awful. But some states, that castle doctrine or
Stand
there's
around.
another term for it. Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, in some states it's pretty clear cut. That's terrible. So
It's such
sad
a
for that
sad
kid's family.
well, and such a sad thing. Yeah, his family, of course, is in Japan when he gets murdered,
Well, who the hell
And
are you that you're such a chicken shit that you have to shoot somebody that's for knocking on your door? I mean, give me a break.
I know, like, get real.
Yeah.
His dad said in a news article, sometimes I feel like he's still in America and sometimes he'll come and someday he'll just come back home.
Yeah.
Isn't that so sad?
That is so sad. That is a terrible case. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's awful. And that guy got off for this.
That's enraging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Enraging.
Not okay at all.
That's the neighbor everybody wants.
Oh my gosh, right?
Jesus.
Like somebody just knocks on your door, so you open the door and kill him? I mean, come on. This is just a
Yeah.
kid who was at the wrong house. Ugh. Yikes.
Terrible. All right. Well, this happened in the 1950s. There was a couple named Peter and Betty Fabiano who, again, they had been doing, a Halloween evening. They had been having trick-or-treaters and just, doing Halloween at home. And they went to bed. And in the middle of the night, the doorbell rang, and they lived in Los Angeles. And Peter answered the door, and there was a woman on the other side of the door wearing a mask with a gun in a paper bag. How Hollywood is this?
Very.
And shot Peter straight in the chest and killed him.
Wow.
And the police eventually figured out that there was a woman named Joan Rabel who was having an affair with his wife, Betty.
Oh.
And Joan hired a woman named Goldine Pizer to murder him.
Wow.
So that they could potentially be together. Betty claimed to have no idea of the plan, that she had no idea this was going to happen, that she had nothing to do with it, and actually was never charged. So Goldine, of course, who did the killing, she was convicted of second-degree murder, and so was Rabel. They both were sentenced to 5 years to life in prison for this one. But again, Betty got off scot-free on that one. But it was quite the Los Angeles shakeup there with
right.
Yes,
lesbian relationship.
Well, yeah, with the relationship, with the murder, with the masked killer, with the gun in the paper bag. I mean, it's
That's a pretty proper Halloween murder, I would say.
Right, I think so too. Especially because it was a love triangle. I mean, kind of checks all the boxes.
Really does. Really does. But that's very sad.
But poor Peter, all he did was answer the door. However, I will tell you this. My gut feeling on this is that Peter was a belligerent jerk. I had felt like maybe earlier in the night they had been to a party or had some kind of contact with this person. And, he obviously didn't know that there was a relationship going on here. But I feel like she had witnessed him being a real ass to his wife. And she finally decided she'd had enough of it. I don't think that our Peter, not that he deserved to be shot, but I don't think that Peter was innocent. I feel like Peter was not a good husband. And this was this is kind of what came from it. It reminds me of that show last year. I don't know if you guys saw it on CBS called Why Women Kill.
Oh,
Did you see Why Women Kill? Oh my gosh. If you guys didn't, if you've got some time on your hands, that is a crazy
You're
show.
home with the coronavirus.
Or staying away from the coronavirus, you should watch that. Anyway, all righty. Well, Johnny Frank Garrett was out on Halloween and decided to get himself into some trouble. And unfortunately, what he did was he broke into a convent and he got a hold of a nun and he raped and murdered her.
Holy hell.
The nun, this was in 1981. Sister Tadia Benz was found naked in a convent. The nuns noticed a broken window in the community room, and they thought that was weird, so they called the police, and the police came, and they found her clothing and a knife underneath her bed, and then they found her naked and assaulted and had been stabbed to death.
Oh my God.
So one of the nuns had actually seen this. He lived across the street from the nunnery or the convent, and someone had seen him running away earlier in the evening
Mhm.
And so the police arrested him, and he was convicted and sentenced to death.
Good.
Yeah. Why? There was never a why as to why he would do such a horrific thing.
I you
Um,
know,
Go ahead.
I feel like he was obsessed with that nun.
Mhm.
I feel like this was not just a random act. I feel like
Yeah.
that he had seen her before and had developed a really, awful obsession with her, and
Mhm.
this was
I
the
think she
ultimate
was nice
result.
to him. I think she was nice to him, whereas other women had not been, but she was
Mhm.
just, doing her nun thing, and
Being
was
kind.
kind.
I don't know, not all nuns are kind, that's what I've heard, but she was a
Huh.
kind nun.
She wasn't whacking anybody with a ruler or
No,
anything. Yeah.
no, yeah, I do feel like this was personal on his part, that this wasn't just random, that he definitely
Yeah.
had a really sick obsession with her.
Yeah. Yep. But he was executed, and his last words were, "I would like to thank my family for loving and supporting me. The rest of the world can kiss my ass." So, very
Wow.
classy there, Johnny Frank Garrett, keeping it
So
classy all
classy.
the way
Rape
through.
and murder a nun and then, tell everybody to F off at the end of your life. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's quite the case. That's pretty terrible.
Oh, that
Uh,
is.
Especially just thinking about families whose, daughters go to a convent, whether that is a decision that, is hard for a family or they love, they're going to assume that their daughter is safe,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
true. You would assume safety in that situation.
Yeah, definitely awful. Well, there was another Halloween prank that ended really poorly,
Mm,
and this happened in 1998. So, the 21-year-old Bronx resident Carl Jackson and his girlfriend were out on Halloween. They were picking her son up from a party, and some teenagers threw eggs at their car. One
mm,
of those things that, teenagers apparently are wont to do on Halloween, though I hope they don't.
mm,
But these
mhm.
things happen. Well, Jackson was not going to put up with that, so he got out of the car and confronted these kids to tell them to stop, and probably was scary and in their face, his car got egged.
Sure.
And one of the teenagers pulled out a gun and shot him in the head.
Oh, God.
Yep. He died instantly, and the kid was charged. His 17-year-old Curtis Sterling was charged and convicted for second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. He
Mm.
was sentenced to 20 years
Wow.
and is currently serving. Yep.
Phew. It's
Yep.
scary to think that, a confrontation like that can turn deadly so quickly,
Right. Right.
that, is something that I always worry a little bit about,
Mhm.
you're like, "You gotta be really careful." Like,
Right.
road rage
All he
is
had
something.
to do was keep driving.
Yeah.
All he had to do. And yet his car got egged. I mean, you can understand why he got out of the car and why he was confronting these kids.
Right.
But he told the New York Times not too long ago that he gets a card on Halloween every year from Jackson's mother that says, "I'm glad you're still in prison." So good for her. I hope
Good
that
for
makes her feel at
yeah.
least a little bit better.
Kind of always wondered what you do with those Halloween cards. I've seen them in the store. Now we know.
I have this great vision of one of those ones like the cute little girl that's dressed as a witch sitting on a pumpkin with a black cat on her lap. You
Right?
flip it open. "I'm glad you're still in prison, jerk."
Mhm.
Well, I'm
That's
glad
what
she
it
does
is.
that. I hope it helps.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. This happened in Michigan in 2010. 16-year-old kid named Devin Griffin came home on Halloween to play video games. He'd been at a church party and been out, Halloweening, and the home seemed too quiet. So he went to check on his family members and found his stepfather in his bed covered in blood. And when the police came, they found two more bodies, Griffin's mother and brother. They were all dead. He just came home from a night of Halloweening and found his whole family dead.
Oh my god.
And there was one family member missing that no one knew where they were. It was a stepbrother named William. And eventually they caught up with William to discover that he was the killer.
Oh
So
god,
he
that's
beat his stepbrother with a hammer, shot his father 5 times, and then sexually assaulted and shot his stepmother, Susan.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So the only reason the stepbrother was safe was because he wasn't home, or he would have been killed as well. But poor Devin got to come home to this scene and basically lose his whole family in one night.
Oh my hell, that is horrible.
Yeah, and this was just in 2010. This is a recent.
Yeah,
He ended up pleading guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder so that he could avoid the death penalty, and managed to find a way to kill himself in jail in 2015. Why? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm instantly hit with that energy of psychopathy. He was definitely a psychopath. I suspect there were lots of other problems with him before this happened. I do feel like I think he had a psychotic break and just went bananas. I don't feel like this was a planned thing. I don't feel like this was a for an intentional outcome kind of thing. He was seriously mentally ill.
Yeah. Yep. That's
God.
so awful. So awful. It just really makes me think about the boy who lived, and
to have to live with that the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah. So all of our love still to Devin Griffin. Can you imagine what Halloween is like for him every year?
Oh man, if I were him, I would be like on a desert island on Halloween every year.
Right. I can only imagine what a trigger Halloween is for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have one more case, and this is a completely unsolved case with very little information about what happened.
Okay.
But this happened in Manhattan in 1981. Photographer Ronald Seisman and his girlfriend, Smith College student Elizabeth Platzman, were beaten and then shot to death in their Manhattan apartment on Halloween evening. And their apartment was completely ransacked, but it didn't appear that anything had been stolen. It's a completely unsolved case. What you think? I know that was a whole lot to go on.
Not much. It's drugs, though. It's drugs. They had something that somebody wanted. I feel like they got mixed up in a bad situation, and they had, I feel like, a pretty significant quantity of something. I think it was heroin or meth.
Heroin is what came through to me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like they had like this large amount, and they were hanging on to it for some reason. They were refusing to give it back or sell it, and they were just sitting on it. And so the person that they owed this to killed them. Just horrible. God, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. And like in that case, I feel like it had nothing to do with it being Halloween. These weren't
it just
people
happened
that
to
cared that it was Halloween. Yeah,
they were in some kind of a stalemate with somebody over this, and it was something that was worth a significant amount of money, and they were refusing to give it back, or turn it over to them. And they it was a single person. It was a man that killed them.
Playing a stupid and dangerous game, and
got involved in something they really didn't understand and really put themselves at risk. Sadly, awful, just awful.
It's really sad. Yeah. Well, that's when I read that the apartment was ransacked, but nothing was taken. I was like, no, something was taken.
It was just something that they didn't expect to be there.
Right. Sure. Yep. Boy, well, there you have it. 10 true crime Halloween cases.
Yeah.
So be safe. Don't hitchhike.
Please don't hitchhike.
Don't steal drugs and hide them.
If trick-or-treaters come to your house at like midnight, do not answer the door.
Nope. They don't get candy after 10 o'clock. That's the rule.
If you don't know where the Halloween party is, call somebody or use Google, because do not go to a stranger's front door.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We can learn some things.
Yep. If we can learn anything from these stories, it's those things for sure. Yeah. But yeah, those are 10 pretty biggies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't egg.
Oh yeah. Don't egg anybody either. You don't know what kind of wackadoodle is driving that car. Don't do it.
Yep. Definitely. And actually, just for the next while, let's just say this. Everybody just be especially careful.
Yeah.
People are super triggered right now. People aren't thinking, you know? So whether it's Halloween or not, can we all just vow to be especially careful, to not engage in confrontation, and to just really take care of ourselves?
And just be kind in every situation. Just be kind. Yeah, definitely.
Needs to happen. All righty. Well, happy Halloween, you guys, and thanks for being
Happy
patrons.
Halloween.
We
Enjoy your
sure
salad.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, do something fun. And of course, we'll be back for all of our regular stuff this week. So watch for that as well. And you guys take care.
Happy Halloween.